Welcome, Ms. Kohler.
Thank you. Good morning. My appreciation to Chairman Mikowski for inviting me here today and to other members of the committee for tolerating hearing a little bit about Alaska. You already had a brief introduction to AVEC, Alaska Village Electric Co-op. We are a nonprofit electric utility that serves 56 communities, and we do so by operating 49 independent power plants. The reason we have to do that is because none of our communities are connected to each other, or very few of them are, although we have been on a mission for the last several years to try and interconnect our communities, because that's how we can achieve economies of scale as well as allow us to integrate some wind power. We actually are leaders in the development of wind power in Alaska. We own 34 wind turbines that serve 15 communities. We're able to achieve capacity reduction or diesel reduction of up to 30% in some of those communities, which is technologically a very challenging feat. But nonetheless, it is a mission that we do have to reduce our diesel consumption substantially. I think, as was pointed out, the export of Alaskan dollars for fossil fuels is considerable. A very brief study that we did a few years ago shows that we're exporting at least $3 billion a year in fossil fuels used to power electricity and heat in our communities. We are, of course, an Arctic state, and as a result, heat is a very critical factor that has to be provided. What we will find in Village, Alaska, in some of our smallest rural communities, over 20% of the population spends literally 50% or more of their disposable income on energy, and that's just electricity and heat. That is not supportable. That's simply, you cannot have any type of economic development when you have energy that is crippling the economy. Across the state of Alaska, we have electric rates ranging from 10 cents a kilowatt hour in southeast Alaska, where they have renewable hydroelectricity, up to over $1 a kilowatt hour in many of our communities where fuel has to be flown in. That, as Senator Mikowski mentioned, our river systems are changing. They're becoming shallower, and more communities are unable to be reached by barge traffic during the very brief summer season when we're ice-free. So as a result, our challenges in Alaska truly are formidable. These small local facilities do not have economies of scale because you're serving populations of just a few hundred. Our average village community at AVEC is 450, but if you look across the state, where we have more than 200 microgrids, as it were, that are completely islanded, the average population in those villages really is more like 200. So when you're trying to develop a reliable energy system to serve such a small population, you actually wind up with a huge amount of redundancy. We have typically 3 to 4 diesel generators in a village. They are sized such that they can pick up the load during any one part of the season of the year. And you have to be able to count upon having one generator down for planned maintenance and having another one break down unexpectedly. So you have to have at least triple redundancy in each of these communities. So as a result, our actual installed cost per service in our villages is 5 times or more that of the lower 48. So typically over here in the lower 48, you see a capital cost of about $2,500 per service. In our villages, it's $17,500 per village, per service. So those disparities result in very high non-fuel costs of power as well. So typically in one of our villages, we're looking at over 60 cents per kilowatt hour for the first 1,000 kilowatt hours, as it were. We must have affordable energy if we're going to have economic development. We must have jobs. We must be able to provide essential services. The state of Alaska has been a significant player. They have funded several programs to improve the cost of electricity. They have a renewable energy fund that's been in operation since 2008 and has plugged almost $300 million into developing renewable energy systems. They have innovative financing options for large-scale construction. They have a revolving power project fund. They have the power cost equalization to reduce the cost of residential electricity for the first 500 kilowatt hours. But federal help is desperately needed in Alaska. We don't have a transmission grid. We would love to have a grid to be able to connect and disconnect to. So that is something that certainly should be on the plate down the future. The Energy Independence and Security Act has got the potential to be a huge player in Alaska. So we urge you to consider funding elements of that act so that we can have the federal support that we need across Alaska. And with that, I stand ready to answer questions and yield the floor back to Chairman Makowski.